Hello there, and welcome to episode 25 of Colonization Project. Right now we are unlocking two new tech nodes before moving on to the first launch of this episode. Actually, no, we're unlocking three tech nodes. Before we are moving on to the first launch of this episode, which is a Starship launch, we are launching the Endurance. This isn't the Endurance, this is Enterprise. We are launching the Enterprise up to go get the crew. We're going to rotate the crew of the Minmus Orbital Outpost. This mission is a bit different because we not only have the normal two scientists, a pilot and an engineer on board, we also have an extra scientist along because we do have 3 science labs. We might as well make use of all 3 of those science labs. So we do have another scientist on board just to generate us a bit more science, which is good. The current crew of the Minmus Orbital Outpost has been up there for probably a year. So the engineer on board, I forget the Kerbal's name. They went homesick a long time ago. Probably because they were overworked by the fact that they had to build a tiny little space probe by themselves. And we never even launched the tiny little space probe, and the contract also reached a deadline, so it's kind of useless. And then the scientists went homesick because maybe I think they were being too overworked in the labs too. So we're gonna have to rotate the crew, which is what we're doing right now. You can see we were just reusing the booster right now, and now we're heading off to Minmus. I should probably tweak the fuel levels on the Starship again. I know I said that I would do this before, but I really feel that Starship right now has too much fuel. I think we're supposed to use the tankers in order to refuel Starship, but I haven't seen a single situation where we actually need more fuel on Starship. It's always less fuel because we're going to need thrust to land. Anyways, we're just performing some mid-course corrections and then heading out to the station, which we've done many times before. Many times. There's some silence here because we've done this so many times that I'm not sure what to talk about. Not much going on right now. I should probably try and shorten the maneuver nodes in video editing, because this is just, it would allow me to get a lot more into the video, and it would probably improve the post commentary by some pretty considerable margins. Because right now, during maneuver planning and just doing the small little burns to get us on course, I don't have much to talk about because nothing much is happening. We're just plotting out the maneuver nodes. So I might edit those out in the future, but that might also be too much effort, so I might also not. Anyways, you saw right there we have arrived, and also the Minmus I probe that we launched a very long time ago is still in orbit, and it's in a retrograde orbit, and it passed within 2 kilometers of the Minmus Orbital Outpost. So we should probably do something about that so it doesn't get hit in the future. I don't think it will, but just in case, we might want to move that in the future. But anyways, you may also notice that Starship doesn't have a docking port. If you remember the last time we launched Enterprise, if you remember, we didn't have a docking port, and we had a claw instead, and the claw broke off. So so we do have to steal a docking port from the space station. Hopefully we won't need that docking port later, and then we can just attach it onto the Starship and just have that be the docking port. Maybe maybe I'll remember to send up another one in the future. Maybe I won't, but we also had an extra docking port on the space shuttle. Not sure why I didn't just use that one. It was probably would have been a better idea to use that one, but for some reason I didn't. And now we're down a single docking port, and the space station looks a bit weird. Although we can always send up a new docking port if and when we actually do need it. Which I don't think is going to happen, because I think the Minmus Orbital Outpost is almost complete. There's not really much else we can add to it, because the Minmus Orbital Outpost is primarily a science gathering station. It's not useful for much else. Sure, it can like do things with that little nuclear tug, but other than just being a science gathering space station, it's not useful for much. So we might stop using the Minmus Orbital Outpost in the future. Once we run out of data to gather, then we will probably make a bigger station, and it won't be a science gathering place. It probably will be an orbital construction dock, and I have it planned in the VAB already. It's quite a large station, and you'll see it eventually, but not very soon, because chances are it's so big we're going to be launching it from Minmus itself. It'll just be not very economically viable to launch it from Kerbin, in which we would need we would need to slap a few more boosters onto the Leviathan, or maybe even make a new launch vehicle in order to carry those modules up into orbit, because the station is 5 meters in diameter, just to give you a sense of how big it is. So it's not a small station by any means. But you will see that soon. I don't want to spoil too much. But you'll see that soon. But now we are returning, I believe this is Pathfinder home. It's been so long since we actually launched a shuttle. I don't know what shuttles are in space. But I do believe this is Pathfinder. Yep, it's Pathfinder. And we are taking it back to Kerbin. You also saw there a while ago that I did not realize that the Minmus Orbital Outpost was in our path, so we do actually end up flying dangerously close to it. Thankfully, we didn't actually hit the space station. That would be quite bad. But we are now heading back to Kerbin. We actually have to go into a retrograde orbit to get our nice landing at the Kerbal Space Center. And this is the same design as Explorer. And if you remember, Explorer, it had a few problems with re-entry. Notably, it's not very aerodynamically stable at high speeds. And also, the Kraken didn't like this, and it decided to misalign one of the landing gear. Hopefully that won't cause any problems. But we are re-entering the atmosphere at like 3 kilometers per second. Not the safest thing to do, but hopefully it can handle it. And as you can see, if you pitch up too hard, everyone goes unconscious and it ends up flipping out of control. Not normal at all, but thankfully our pilot gains consciousness once again. I believe, no, you can't actually control this. This thing has to be manned. It has to be controlled. Does it? I actually think we might have a probe core in the shuttle. But anyways, we do regain control, and we still managed to land back at the runway. I also forgot to recover the booster, so you can still see Super Heavy just standing there on the launch pad. But we do eventually land. Probably not my smoothest landing, but we do manage to keep the nose gear up, which I thought was cool because I think that's sort of how the real shuttle landed. It tried to keep its nose up for as long as possible. But now we're launching a Leviathan booster once again, slowing it down to 1x speed for the launch because it's kind of cool seeing it rise out of the ocean. This is carrying another Minmus Miner. The old one, it had a few flaws. First flaw, it didn't have enough electric charge to supply not even one of the drills at once. Second flaw, it wasn't configured to the right resources, so we actually couldn't store any of the exotic minerals or rare metals. So this solves two of those problems, and I don't think it has any more problems because this one actually works. We removed a couple of things. We removed the solar panels because new nuclear reactors more than capable enough of supplying both of the drills at once, both during the day and during the night. So we don't need the solar panels anymore. We also need to change out the radiators because I do have both system heat and interstellar extended installed. So there are two very different heat systems, and you have to use the unique radiators for each one. So we did have to replace the radiators with these interstellar extended radiators instead of the system heat radiators. But that's not too much of a problem. And we also added some reaction control systems in order to keep the a module a bit. We give it a bit more control authority during descent, because the old one, it couldn't maneuver if its life depended on it, which it sort of does. But yeah, this one's vastly improved, and you'll see if it works or not. Although I don't know. Anyways, we are once again reusing all the boosters. Not all of them, however. We are not reusing the smaller SRBs or the second stage. Smaller SRBs, we don't really need to recover those. First stage, we do want to recover it because this thing costs like probably like 400,000 credits. It actually costs us like 1 million credits, or funds, or Kerbucks, or whatever you want to call them. It actually costs us about 1 million of those in order to just launch these Minmus miners to Minmus. Just the second stage, the boosters, and the payload all cost about 1 million funds to create, and then you have to wait like 40 days for it to complete. So they're not very cheap to make, which is why we waited so long in between the launch of the previous one and the launch of this one, because we didn't really have enough funds to make it. And once we did get enough funds, it took us a bit of time to actually do that. But we did eventually launch it, and this thing will actually gain us so many funds. It's almost astonishing how much you can make from off-world mining with Kerbal Space Program, USI, of course. It's not the most profitable thing. You can send up antimatter harvesting stations, and then you can make ridiculous money. You can make ridiculous money off of antimatter. Helium-3 is also a really valuable resource, but helium-3 is also very rare. And antimatter is too. But I mean, you sort of have to build jewel colonies if you want to mass produce helium-3. Antimatter, you can just stick more antimatter collectors on it. I guess you can stick more drills, helium-3 drills, onto your base if you want to expand helium-3 production on the moon, but that's not very efficient. We want to be constructing floating jewel colonies. Because that's far more cooler than the surface bases. Anyways, we are once again landing very close to the first Minmus Miner, because there aren't very many rare metals or exotic minerals on Minmus, and they're all located near the poles, specifically the North Pole of Minmus. Anyways, we are landing. We did have to expend a bit of extra fuel because the warp to maneuver node once again overshot us. That's why I don't like using the warp to maneuver node. It is helpful sometimes, but half of the time it just doesn't decide to work. Anyways, we are landing, and we can activate all the radiators, nuclear reactors, RCS thrusters. Wait a minute, not the RCS thrusters. Do all the things we need to do, extend all the storage compartments, activate the drills, all that. And we are producing exotic minerals and rare metals at a rate of like 1 per second, which is actually really good, which means if we wait enough time, we can actually get a sizable stockpile of rare metals and exotic minerals. And then we can store them in the planetary warehouse and send this up to go get them. This is the Minmus Exotic Mineral Rare Metal Returner Home thing. Very good name. It's launching on a Sarnis Heavy because I learned my lesson from the Dunalander, and yeah, having not enough fuel and a Sarnis booster is pretty bad. So just slap 2 solid rocket boosters on there and we're good to go. But you can see that this thing is designed to carry exotic minerals and rare metals back to Kerbin. Exotic minerals and rare metals, they're quite dense, which is why we need that huge fuel tank, even though we only need like 400 meters per second in order to return from Minmus. We need all that delta V because at the end, that storage module will weigh like, I don't even want to know how many tons that's going to weigh, but it weighs a lot. So that's why we need a huge fuel tank and thus a huge launch vehicle to launch it. The Leviathan was too overpowered to launch this, so I just decided to slap some more boosters on the Sarnis, which seems to work quite well. Although I do want to have more landing zones further down range, because as you can see, we have a bit of extra fuel in this, and we could have used that extra fuel in order to do more things with Minmus. This is also a brand new I'm not sure if this is a brand new booster or not. It probably is because the last one, yeah, exploded. Another thing, actually, wait a minute. I'm not sure why I just said that. But anyways, we are heading out to Minmus. The second stage can't fully get us out there, so we do have to use the payload in order to get all the way to Minmus. This is actually, I can't remember the last time I've actually used a Poodle engine. It's just that they don't fill a very big role. Second stage engine, it doesn't really provide enough thrust. If we want something that can maneuver in space, we would use like nuclear engines. Or maybe like I don't even know. I guess that's what it felt. Low tech maneuvering in space. I guess that's good, because later in the game you get the Wolfhound, and that's much better. Much better. Once again, I can't speak. Much better than the Poodle engine. But yeah. Anyways, we are heading down to the base and heading down to the base. Pretty much all we're doing right now. Something to note about this spacecraft. This is not meant to be a sustainable way of getting exotic minerals to and from Minmus. This is not sustainable at all, and I kind of hate it. It's a lot more complex than it needs to be. And we do eventually get a better solution for this eventually. But that is not now. The Luna transfer vehicle, it can do that. However, it does need to be refueled on the surface, and right now we don't have any source of liquid fuel and oxidizer. So we need this just to get us enough funds to launch a liquid fuel and oxidizer production station to Minmus, and then we can use the Luna transfer vehicle in order to ferry exotic minerals and rare metals to and from Minmus. I mean, we're not shipping them to Minmus, we're taking them from Minmus. And if we just want the money, then we will have a, I don't even want to spoil it yet, because, it's very cursed, I can tell you that. but you will see it soon, and it will be able to carry like 9 million funds worth of exotic minerals and rare metals, which is not a small amount. That actually, no, it's 11 million funds. You will see that soon. Probably in the next episode, though, because this is all we're doing in this episode. This is the last sort of launch of this episode. And we are launching the Endurance up to Minmus because we need to connect the two bases together. Not the two bases. We need to connect the ferry, and that's what I'm going to call it. I'm just going to call it the ferry from now on. It's going to be, we need to connect the ferry and the base to transfer exotic minerals and rare metals we need to connect the two vessels. And to do that, we need Kerbals, and we also need an engineer to attach a pipe endpoint to the ferry, because it doesn't have one. So this is what this mission is for. Once again, a slightly improved version of the Endurance. We no longer have those wider wheels. We now only have 2 pairs of wheels. Actually, no, we have 3 wheels. Instead of like the 5 that we used to have, which does cut down on mass a bit. And we also don't have any solar panels and the cargo bay, I'm doing the air quotes thing. The storage container, it has been replaced with an inline storage container just to cut down on the aerodynamics and stuff. You can also see the visuals did look a bit different there. That's because I was just seeing what the game looked like without the TUFX, and it doesn't look as good. So I'm going to change it very, very soon. Which not now. The game crashed, and then I forgot to change it back just to see what it looked like. But I will change it sooner or later. Not this episode, but in a future episode. Yeah, you can see just how different the game looks if you enable/disable the TUFX mod thing. I was just seeing how it looked, and it looks a bit worse than it does with it. Anyways, we are landing on the surface of Minmus. However, oh yeah, we also needed a quartermaster in order to transfer the resources from the planetary warehouse to the base. I'll probably explain more about the planetary warehouse in the next episode because I don't have the time. In this episode, I only have like 1 more minute. I only have like 1 more minute in this episode, so I'll probably explain it later. But we do need a quartermaster, and I forgot to bring an engineer along, so we will see how I solve that problem in the next episode. But we are landing this on Minmus, and we can get the crew out to go do things, like go into the base, which is good, because then they won't go homesick from being in a cramped space plane. Oh, you can also see the new suits. I might have enough time to explain this. If I don't, I can just extend the video. I am sort of like color coding the Kerbals based on their profession with their suits. So pilots have the white and black suit that you've seen for like the entire series. Engineers have the same sort of suit but red. And scientists have the same suit but blue. Scouts like Sergei Kerbin. We only have 1 scout in the space program right now, but he has the breaking ground suit. And then quartermasters have the SpaceX suit. I believe that's all for now, but that will be the end of this episode. I went a bit, I did not have enough time to talk about that, but good to know. That will be the end of this episode. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.